How to talk to someone who always gets defensive. Here is how to prepare yourself in this video and how to have the conversation coming up. This is the Lifecraft Coach channel. Here we go. If you talk to relationship experts, they'll normally describe people in two categories. There are hedgehog people and there are rhino people. Rhino people who are people who charge into a conversation a little bit like a bull in a china shop. They just want to get straight to the point. The hedgehog people are quite prickly, can be very sensitive, very reactive, and difficult to have a conversation with. Both of those have two extreme negatives and two extreme positives. You know, if you're a rhino personality, you want to get to the point, you want to get things resolved, but sometimes you won't consider the person's feelings, you won't consider the implications of your conversation, and it can do more harm than good. And the same if you're really prickly, the danger is that you avoid the issue, you skirt around the subject, you don't ever resolve any conflicts. And again, we can fall into those categories at different times of our lives. When you've met that prickly person, the person who really seems like they're on edge, or whenever you have a conversation, it's difficult to get into it because they're going to be defensive. Whatever you say might be taken as a personal attack. It might not be heard in the best light. This makes for a difficult working dynamic, a difficult relationship. But if we're to live thoughtfully and effectively, we want to be adults who tackle things head on, then you and I have got to have conversations, especially when somebody is getting defensive. And you'll know when there's an issue, you know, when it's playing on your mind continually, when you're thinking, if I don't resolve this, things are just going to be upset, it's not going to sort itself out. Well, you need to prepare yourself and find a way to have a constructive conflict, a positive conversation about it. The first thing you need to do is check your motives. Why do you want to have this conversation? Is it that you need to let them know how it is or give them a piece of your mind? Or actually, are you trying to help the person? Are you trying to make them better? Do you have their best interest at heart? And also, if it's an issue that's playing on your mind, you've got to ask yourself the question, is it really an issue with them? Or is it an issue with me? Is it really my problem? Maybe I've taken something the wrong way. Maybe I'm just not used to the way that they do things, or the way that they speak, or the way that they behave. Maybe the problem isn't theirs, it's actually yours. You've got to take some time to reflect on your own life first. Somebody once said, when you've got one finger pointing at somebody else, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. So you've got to check your motives. The second thing I'd say you need to do is prepare your thoughts. Let's say you have reflected, you have thought, well, no, this isn't just my issue, or it's not my issue at all. I need to talk to this person. It is important enough for me to confront them on, and it's not going to go away by itself. Well, then you need to prepare yourself. You need to spend a bit of time alone where you gather your thoughts, even write them down on a piece of paper. What's the problem? Why is this happening continually? Why do I need to address this? What's the best possible outcome here? And how would I like to guide the conversation? If this conversation could go well, how will it go? You know that thing we do where we have an argument and we play it out in our heads, you know, and we always come out on top because we're the best in our imagination when it comes to arguing, and it never quite goes like that when you get into the conversation. Don't do that, but try and think about how you want to guide the conversation to a positive outcome. Is it that you want the person to address their behavior? Is it that you want a better working relationship with them? Is it that you just need them to be aware of how their actions are affecting other people? Or is it that you've got a conflict between you and them and you're not sure what their perspective is, but you want to gain a bit of clarity so you can improve it? Whatever it is, you should have an outcome in mind, and gathering your thoughts and writing them down will help you guide the conversation. You won't be fumbling around when you get into the awkward chat. You'll have an idea of which direction this is going to go in. Focus on behaviour, not so much on the person. Whenever we get into conversations where we're trying to challenge something, The reason people get defensive and the reason why it's difficult to have a conversation with somebody who gets defensive is we make it about the person and it starts to become an attack, and we say things like you always or you never, or we place blame in the conversation. But if we can talk more about the actions and the behavior and the effects that they have on you and those around you, it's not so much about the person's character, but the way in which they might be carrying themselves, something that can be changed rather than a part of their personality. If somebody attacks your personality, you're going to defend it. It's a part of who you are. Why wouldn't you? Maybe begin from a place of your feelings and your emotions. Talk to the person about how their actions and their behavior are making you feel, the impact they're having on your life. You can't argue with that. How you feel is how you feel. If somebody's offended you, if somebody has done something that cuts across your cultural value, if somebody has done something that's dishonorable, it is what it is. You feel disjointed, you feel upset, you feel agitated, and that is how you are. You can't say to somebody, well, no, you don't feel like that, because feelings are subjective to each and every person. And then you can talk about, well, are you willing to have a conversation about your behavior that makes me or others feel in a certain way? Are you willing to consider other people over yourself? Fourthly, extend the benefit of the doubt. You probably will already know this, but there might be a reason why they're behaving in a certain way. Maybe something's gone off at home. Maybe they've lost their job. Maybe they've had a fallout. Maybe they're so stressed, there's something that's just taken them over the edge and you happen to be on the receiving end of it. There's stuff that goes on inside people's hearts and minds and lives that we don't always see. We're not God, we don't have that insight, and so you behave in a certain way and sometimes you'll think, I don't know why I did that, and it turns out it wasn't the thing that was the problem, wasn't really the problem. That actually it was something that happened earlier in the week or something that was playing on your mind. That might be at play with this person. Maybe they're not trying to be agitating, maybe they're not trying to be aggressive or upsetting to people. There's just some stuff that's going on in their lives that they're carrying which is a bit too much for them. It happens to all of us. So come with that in mind. Maybe there's just an issue that they haven't yet talked through. There's stuff they're bottling up inside. Extend the benefit of the doubt. Always assume the best in these kind of conversations. Don't ever assume the worst. Finally, when you've done those things, you're ready to have the conversation. Find a neutral place. Sit down with the person. Invite them for coffee. Invite them for a walk where you can go side by side. Particularly for guys, when you're eyeball to eyeball, those kind of conversations can feel intense. So try and sit alongside them. Open up the conversation. Lay the agenda early on. Don't blindside them with inviting them out for a drink and it looks like just a nice little catch up. Then all of a sudden you're like, here's the issue. No, give them time to prepare. Say something like, I'd love for us to go and chat about this thing that's been on my mind. There's a bit of a conflict or a frustration. I'd love us just to get it out in the open and work out how we can move forward together. I don't want to talk about it right now. If they try and open up the conversation, say, I don't want to talk about it just yet, but can we find some time where we can spend some quality focus on talking about this issue? And if you've got a good relationship and they want to work with you and they want to get along, they'll do that. If they don't, then you're entering into a whole different category. Some people are toxic, some people don't want to work things out, some people don't want to be teachable, some people are unwilling to take responsibility for their lives. Those are a different scenario to deal with. This particular scenario, we're thinking about people that we work with, that we're maybe connected to, maybe they're a relationship in our lives or a family member, and we want to work forward and they're willing to work forward, and we know there's an openness and a good relationship. That's this conversation. So when you do meet up, bring the topic, don't skirt around the issue, don't make small talk, just get straight to it. Hey, you know we're here to talk about this thing. I'd love to get your perspective on it. Here's how I see it. Here's how some of these things are making me feel. What do you think about that? Is there a way that we can talk about this and move forward together? It will go one of two ways. The first way is that the person will respond and they'll say something along the lines of, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was coming across like that. That was never my intention. I would never do anything to upset, offend, or whatever the issue might have been. And they'll be apologetic and they'll think, how can I be more self-aware? Can we have a conversation about, if you see it, maybe speak into my life, challenge me a little bit, or it'll go the other way where they'll blow up, they'll get defensive, and they will not listen to anything you've got to say. Or they'll sort of do that internally but pay you lip service, and you'll be able to see it in their face when that happens. The reality is you can't force anyone to change. All you can do is take responsibility for yourself and commit to having a tough conversation when you see something that needs to be challenged. And I'm talking about things that matter as well. There are some things you can let go and it's up to you to judge those. But when you know that I've got to have this conversation, at least having the courage to put it on the table will show the person that you're not willing to let big things slide, that you're going to be a person of integrity. And at the very least, it might make them think twice about the behavior going forward. The best case scenario is you have a stronger relationship with the person, you can hold each other to account, and don't be arrogant in that. Don't assume that you've got the answers here. You might have something to learn. There might be a reason why they're responding to you in the way that they are. Maybe they've got an issue with you. Maybe there's some things you need to work on and change in your life. But hopefully that will help. There's my tips for dealing with people who get defensive. Don't forget to drop into the comments, and in our description there's a link to a blog that goes a little bit deeper on this. My name's Julian. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.